us about yourself, what motivated you to run, and actually, in your case, rerun for Gilbert Town Council, and what experience you bring to this role.
Okay. Well, I'm Bobbi Buckley, as you all know, I'm sure, and I am a current council member. I am in my fourth year of my first term. And I served as vice mayor last term, last year in 2025. And numerous different things motivated me, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, saying that, but I've always been interested in politics and history and stuff like that. So I think just COVID and a lot of things kind of spurred me on to do something. So with that, though, I have owned several very successful businesses. I have owned my own real estate company. I've worked, I have about a 14-year history in corporate banking. So started out working for a small bank called First Security Bank, and then I worked for United Bank, which was downtown Mesa. Grew up in Mesa from the time I was about 6 or 7. And so I worked for First Security, United Bank, Norwest Bank, and Citibank. And so altogether, I ended up, being there for about 14 years, had a great history doing that. And then I've done some development. I was a 50% partner on the first private water ski lake in Arizona, which at that time it was in Queen Creek, but now it's in Santan Valley. It's way between Florence and Queen Creek. And so happened to be in a position to hear about Gilbert having water available for recreational purposes. And most people would think, golfing or something to that effect. And of course, we already had a water ski lake, and this was right in the middle of Gilbert. And this was in 1990. And so that, I think, probably getting that project through the town of Gilbert is probably spurred me on more than anything to want to come in. And if I'm, excuse me, if I'm over my time, just tell me. But anyway, so I think that spurred me on to, want to get involved and maybe make that process a little bit easier and quicker. And so that, and of course, we built a home there, and I lived there for 18 years and raised my kids there. And so that kind of takes me a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened in between, of course, and different things I've done, but those are the major things that I've accomplished. And I think they all have helped me to be a better council member. So, and quickly to answer your question of why I'm doing this again, I have no idea. Actually, I do. I love what I'm doing, and it's hard to be kind of in the middle of things, of different projects and things like that you want to be able to be here and see those things completed. And my big thing is I'm really concerned about build out. And that is a very pivotal time and circumstance for the town of Gilbert, and making sure that we're a sustainable community at the end of build out.
Well, and that is a wonderful transition into our coming questions because we have lots on that. So let me start us off. When it comes to economic development and the business environment, what new or existing incentives would you support to encourage businesses to start, grow, and stay in Gilbert?
Okay, now, and you said what? I didn't get the first part of your question.
New or existing initiatives. So anything we're already doing, as well as if you have ideas for things you think we could be doing.
Okay, for economic development in Gilbert.
Yep. Yeah. So how do we
Right.
get
Well,
people to want to start businesses and increase their businesses and, keep them healthy and strong? Yes.
right. Well, first we have to look at if it's larger businesses or corporations or something, we are almost at build out. and we have very little land left.
Hmm.
So that we have to be extremely selective in what we're going to put in there. We have to keep our uh, commercial. We have to stop the down zoning of commercial or the zoning of a commercial anywhere. And there's some people that won't want to hear that, but we have to do that because that is part of what Sarah and you guys all do as a chamber is for our businesses is help them and keep them there. I would like to see more um, small businesses, the restaurants, maybe shops, different shops, and it's like a shoe store. I cannot find a shoe store to repair my shoes anywhere. I finally found one, but things that we might only have one in like North Gilbert, but something a little bit closer for everyone. So I just think that our businesses, it's something we're going to have to really look at and be selective, and we have to do that.
Yep, selective's not a bad thing. How would you address regulatory hurdles or permitting challenges in this process? And you alluded a little to some experience with this in your intro, so.
Yeah. Actually, for the permitting process, I think that compared to what I went through, of course, that was in 1990, but it took us 3 years to get a permit to build. And and now we have really cut that down a lot. It's been cut down tremendously, and it's not unless there's complications. And some projects, depending on the size, there's going to be different complications. But for the most part, I think it's much better and much simpler now
Okay.
to do that.
All right. Well, that's always good to hear that we're moving in the right direction. Um, the town council has recently approved significant increases to utility rates. So going forward, how do you balance infrastructure needs with the financial impact it places on both residents and businesses?
Okay, so I was pretty sure that question might be asked, something similar, but it's difficult for us to have to increase those rates. There's numerous reasons why they had to be the size they were. I don't want to dwell on that because it was something that kind of this council, it just became our baby to have to take care of and to have to do something that we couldn't keep kicking the ball down the road. And the ball had been kicked down the road for the last 12 years probably because nobody wanted to have that responsibility of raising rates. And we were at a point, and especially with building the infrastructure for the Greenfield plant, we're just in a position where water costs more, infrastructure costs more, everything is costing more. And I think what some of our residents don't realize is that we pay for water. We pay for water from the minute that it's shipped down from one of the suppliers, either SRP or CAP or anywhere we're getting water, we pay for that water. And it's not clean water, it's dirty water. And so that's what we have the treatment plants for. So we pay for the water that we get, but we still have to treat it. And the treatment, just the chemicals and I shouldn't say chemicals. I'm not sure exactly what they treat it with, but I do know that it's good, clean, safe water for us to drink. And what I will say is what we're hoping and what we have done, because the rates we did the three-tier, the 50, 25, and 25. For 2027, now there will not be a water raise. There will not be a water increase in 2027. And the estimated plan is, and it could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. And we're hoping to do no more than a 6% increase for each year going after, which is a very sustainable increase that we can do and still make everything work. And in addition to that, the water treatment plant is completed. And so the water, but the water rights, we didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. And I understand totally how our residents feel and how we felt. The water, a lot of times I think that our residents have looked at their bill and they look at, like mine, when I first moved down, I'm out in Seville, I first moved in here, my utility bill, because I don't like calling it a water bill because it's actually a utility bill. And I think if we get used to using that term more, because it has 5 different services on there. And but mine was I think it was $59 a month. And my bill now, my new bill coming out is 179. So it's hit us just like it's hit everyone else. And we hope that now we've got everything good and we're in a great position, for build out on the water infrastructure.
Thank you, Bobbi. Our next question, we're going to build upon Jasmine's earlier question a bit, having to do with Gilbert approaching build out. As Gilbert approaches build out, what types of businesses or industries should the town actively prioritize or not prioritize, and then why?
Well, we right now, and I'm really adamant about this, we have to prioritize our commercial and retail. Those are what bring income into the town. And that, I mean, economic development is who brings those in. Dan Henderson, our economic developer, which we're heartbroken he's going to be leaving, but that's what he does. He goes out and he finds these businesses and he finds things that are going to increase our revenue. But our revenue going into build out, we have to make sure that we're in a good position there. And that has to be with and you might see me saying, okay, I'm not changing the zoning on this. I'm not changing this from one commercial to a different commercial, because they're there for a reason. And there's been a lot of probably research from economic development from you guys to have and to know what kind of income those properties are going to bring in. But we have very little land left, and what commercial land we have left, we have to prioritize, and we have to be extremely strict on how we're planning and what we're putting in there.
Thank you. Now, we spoke about new development. My next question has to do with redevelopment. What role do you think redevelopment should play in Gilbert's future, and what outcomes would you hope to see from that effort?
Okay, well, I think this is my opinion, and I am the liaison for economic development, so that's kind of helped me in this aspect. The redevelopment, I know the Northwest Corridor that we're redeveloping and having in that, it's huge, because if we don't do our redevelopment for each section as it becomes aged, then that's how a town dies. Then it becomes, a blight area or a slum area. If we don't keep the redevelopment and do the redevelopment properly, then that area is going to just decay. And that to me, it's extremely important to do that and to keep up with that.
Thank you. I'm going to switch gears on you. Town leadership. With the transition in town leadership, including the recent departure of the town manager, how will you help ensure stability and effective governance during this period?
Okay, well, that, honestly, it has been, we have an interim town manager who has been fantastic. And we've had meetings and things, and what we want to do and what we've needed to do, and I think that we have done that extremely well, is keep the status quo as best we can until we hire a new town manager, which we'll be interviewing the final 5 next week. And hopefully that will be coming up very quickly. I think our staff has done a fantastic job. keeping everything going. I mean, we're making sure that um, that things continue exactly as they were. We're not looking at big changes or any changes if we can help that. There's been some movements because it's, the movement just makes it flow a little smoother. And then the interims that have been, the people that have been moved and then they're in an interim position, they'll go back to their position once we have the new town manager. But I really feel like, everybody has just done a great job of keeping the status quo and not having anything there, especially with things that we still had to come down, with the water rate audit and different bigger things that we had to look at and be concerned with. And, staff was on top of all of those. And, I'm not trying to applaud us, but I think we've all done a great job with where we are and, making our residents still feel comfortable and taken care of.
Well, thank you. And on that, Gilbert has a large and growing municipal budget, right? How will you approach budgeting and prioritization to ensure responsible spending while supporting essential services and economic growth?
Okay, well, we're in the middle of doing that right now. That's probably why you asked that question. But I will tell you that you're right. We do have a very large budget. Our job as council members are to the big jobs is to balance the budget, and we will balance the budget. It's been an extremely tough couple of years, and we have just gotten through, we balanced our budget last year and thought, okay, we're going to be great. And then, we get these cuts from either the state or the feds, will cut funds from somewhere. And so we just have to be prepared for that. And our budget director's done a great job of kind of looking in the future and having these little pockets of places that there's maybe something extra that we can use that money for if someone gets low on, if a department or a project gets low on that. But I really, our 2027 budget is pretty tough. And what we have done and we may have to do again is some of our projects we're pushing out from being on the 1 to 5 year plan. Now they may be in the 6 to 10-year plan. But the main huge infrastructure that we have done and are still completing is the water treatment plant. And that is about well over halfway, and the next half will go pretty quick. That's why there's no increase in 2027. So because that's going to be finished, and some of the increases was numerous things on the water. And so we're just we're doing what we can. There are maybe some services that may be cut a little bit. There may be some services that were free that there's a possibility that it might be $2 or $5 or something like that. That hasn't been made a decision yet, so I want to make that clear. But we're looking at everything that we can look at to try to maintain the services we have, and and get through 2027. And I don't know, I see this now. The budget director Kelly may not agree with this, but I kind of feel much better that after 2027 we're going to be on a much more comfortable road.
Okay. Changing gears a little bit, what responsibility do elected officials have in setting the tone for respectful discourse? And how do you model that in your interactions?
Okay, that is a good question. And I have got to think about this for 1 second so I answer it properly. But I hope that I have modeled that myself in I've got to think here for a minute, in a very professional manner, and I think our job is huge to do that. That our job is not to keep our residents in, a constant state of turmoil uh, every day. I mean, that's just not our job. Our job is to try and give them the answers they're looking for. Not everybody's going to like any answer that they get, but it is our job, I think, to be role models and to present ourselves in a very professional way. And I don't think any of us should be doing anything different.
Well, thank you. What does a strong, effective partnership with the chamber look like in practice? And how would you engage with the business community if elected?
Okay, well, I'm a big fan, as you all know, of the chamber, and I've, in having, my own business and several businesses, I know what it takes to run a business, and I know what we need to do, and the chamber has everything to offer. If you are starting a new business, from the beginning, or you're in the middle, or you're toward the end, they have resources that can help anyone with that starting a new business. And they can, if you just come in and you're 19 years old and you want to start a business, then the chamber has the avenue for that, to teach them from day one, this is what you do, and go through numerous different steps. And which I can't go through all of them. I probably could if I had to, but no, I think the chamber is absolutely such a I guess I don't know if catalyst is the right word for the town, to help everyone that is in business. And I think sometimes people might hesitate a little bit as to wanting to join the chamber or be on the, involved in the chamber. And I would recommend everyone do that. If you own a business, your business will thrive if you get and if you utilize the information that the chamber has in every aspect, economic aspect, growth aspect, beginning aspect, anything you need, you're going to find there.